Hello, hope all is well. Thought I'd do a quick video here as we got, well, a bit of a surprise last week. I wasn't expecting this, but there's a new beta firmware that's available for the FM3. So I put together a test preset to try a few things out, and here are a few tones using the Supro Black Magick and the Dynacab that's set up this way. So yeah, some pretty chunky tones to be had there. This is a really cool, well, fuzz, I think, that's been added. And typically I don't really play much, well, fuzz pedals in general or fuzz in presets I set up, but I really thought this had a nice kind of thing going on with the tone, especially when you started messing around with, say, the wicker switch here and then upping the gain on there, so you get a different kind of vibe to the tone. But the real highlight for me is this new delay type that's been added, which is the surround delay. And I'll just pull up the description here again. So basically this delay is producing like rotating echoes that seem to kind of move around your head and move around the listener. So I'd really suggest, depending on how you're listening to this, good stereo monitors or headphones or something like that to really hear kind of what it's doing in the stereo field. Now, what I really like about this is it's giving this really kind of nice sense of space. So you can get really lost in these big kind of ambient tones. And that's this next thing that I set up, which, well, I kind of went overboard, but yeah, have a listen. So yeah, kind of went a bit OTT there, and in essence, you can still do the usual things that you do on any delay. So with the EQ, you can add stack and hold on there as well to get infinite kind of feedback and things like that. But the extra magic that I added was, well, there's a reverb, a really big reverb, the Nimbo Stratus on there, a bit of pitch shift on there, which I added in parts. And then an extra delay actually up front after the compressor, which is a stereo mind guy with a quarter note dot. So you get this kind of, yeah, kind of bouncing kind of feel between the two delays, while one delay is kind of going around in the stereo field. And this tone, as you saw, there's no cab, but what I've started doing to get that kind of like 80s, well, direct, clean kind of tone is actually use, well, a compressor. The Rock Guy compressor is really good for this. And then actually using an amp, in this case, the Tube Pre, to get some of that kind of tube flavor or those kind of harmonics and things like that to get kind of softens things out a bit as well. And you can further push this by adding some compression in the Dynamics tab, which I really enjoy actually. So by doing this, we then get like, you know, some extra character coming from like the Tube Pre. I've just upped the level there, which gives us that nice kind of direct-to-desk compressed tone, but with a bit of tube chewiness in there as well. In any case, I really like what I'm hearing with these, well, new kind of toys, I guess, and also the general feel as well from playing. So I made a quick test and basically made a quick recording before updating from firmware 11 to firmware 12, and I'll put that here as well. Now this firmware is available through the forums, links below of course, and there's quite a few new cool things have been added or will be added in the future. So a big thing here is that they found a way to add more dynacabs to the unit. However, it will reduce the amount of like user IRs that you can add to the unit from 1024 to 512. So yeah, that is a lot less user cabs that you can actually store, but in all honesty, I much prefer to have more dynacabs than to have up to 1,000 odd custom IRs. I mean, it's hard enough sort of going through the IRs that you have already available. So this actually kind of helps reduce that kind of option paralysis that you might have. So one of the big things here is that, again, we're getting some improvements to the amp modeling, specifically in the preamp portion, which will give a more, as it says, more accurate harmonic response and better feel. And then also improved power amp modeling with more controlled low end, especially for non-master volume amps. So Marshall, old Plexi amps and things like that will definitely benefit from that. And then we have a whole lot of sort of bass orientated stuff which has been added. So the P Fuzz for bass, the no amp bass DI, which is the Sans amp bass driver DI, which is going to be really cool to have in there as well, along with the no amp bass pre, again the Sans amp bass driver DI, and then also the Royal Bass DI in there as well. So there's a few more toys to play with if you're, say, running bass through, let's say, a Fractal device. And then along with that, we've got some new graphic EQ models that have been added, and a And a really cool thing for me is the surround delay. So in terms of Dynacabs, we've got a few new additions here. So we have the 1x12 Schultz, the 1x8 Prince Tone, 1x12 Black Magick, the 8x10 SV bass. And a really cool thing they added as well within this is that underneath the Align tab, we have this Auto Align feature. It's only for Dynacabs. You can still kind of mess with the actual sort of align over here on the two cabs, but it does mean that if you're, say, mixing and matching different Dynacabs, you can just hit on auto align and it will do that kind of work for you and make sure that they're perfectly aligned and in phase. And along with that, we have some pitch shift updates, notably with, say, the synth and particularly the ring mod block. So now within the ring mod block, which I've added here, which you could hear at the beginning, we now have this sort of pitch tracking that's more kind of oriented to either bass or guitar, depending on what instrument you're running through there. And then next to that, we also have the high cut frequency. So that means that we can really kind of cut off the amount of, well, of that signal. So that bass octave, that lower bass octave, we can decide how much of that frequency is going through, if that makes sense. So I'd suggest like a lower high cut frequency, depending on what kind of tone you're going for. So I hope that was useful. Again, this is a beta firmware. If you want to check it out, you can check it out on the forum. Again, back up your presets, your settings and things like that to be sure that, well, you don't lose anything should anything go wrong. And otherwise, I guess somewhere along the line, we'll get a firmware 12, maybe before Christmas, who knows. In any case, I really appreciate to see, well, all this continued work across the Fractal devices. There's a bit of bias maybe because, well, this is the main unit that I use, but seeing those kind of updates, not only to, well, extra effects and things like that that are added, but improved amp modeling across the board is something that I really like and appreciate. In any case, hope that was useful. Hope to see you in the next video. Take care.